Marketing to a library and through a library. Oh my gosh, I am so excited to bring you today's episode because if you are an author, you know the power of a library. And I would venture to say you would love to know how you could work with one. Not all libraries run the same way, but most have similar departments that are actively looking for ways to inspire people to come in, to read more, and to fall in love with books like we have. Today, I get to introduce you to a dear friend of mine who just so happens to be a library programmer and who just so happens to have brought me in to her library to spread my book's messages in meaningful ways over the years. In this season of the podcast, I'm pulling back the curtains on some of my favorite book marketing tactics that work and are so much fun to do, and collaborating with a library is one of them. Marketing is about reaching people where they are when they want you to. And guess what? Patrons of the library just may be your people. Let's dive in. Hey, I'm Stephanie Feger, and Empower is my middle name. Well, not really, but it should be. I believe that empowered people empower people, and I'm obsessed with empowering you, the nonfiction author, with impactful marketing strategies and tactics to help you take your important message and share it with those who desperately need it and want it and will buy it. As the owner and chief strategist of the Empower PR Group and the author of several books myself, I have merged my love for reading books and writing books and marketing books to help nonfiction authors with laser-focused strategies and tactics to write books that sell, promote books to those who need and want them most, and build meaningful businesses from empowering messages. Think of this as your one-stop shop for marketing insights from an author who has been there, done that, and understands exactly where you are. So get your pens ready because I'm ready to empower you. This is the Empowered Author Podcast. Gayle, I am so excited that you are on the Empowered Author Podcast. And the reality is, when we met several years ago, I couldn't even have fathomed that we would be at this place. But our friendship has blossomed so much. And what you and I've gotten to do over the years has been so fun. I couldn't hold back you and your brilliance from the authors around the world that are listening to the Empowered Author Podcast today. Gayle, thank you for coming. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Stephanie. I would have to agree that I would never have figured out or guessed where our friendship would take us. But I do have to throw in there. I said one time to a coworker, well, that looks pretty good, but it needs a little finessing. When I told that to another coworker, she said, oh, honey, it needs a whole lot more than finessing. And what was interesting, I think when we met, you and I, it was a 2.5-hour interview and ideas, and you used the word finesse. And it was like, okay, I'm going to work with this girl. So that was fantastic.
Well, you've never told me that. That's really cool. I love that.
I'm sorry. Well, you never know. That's what podcasts are for.
They are.
Untapped resources and stories, I suppose. But thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. And you mentioned the first time we met, we chatted for 2 hours. Right before we pressed record for this episode, we made a pact together that even though we could chat for 6 hours plus, because Gayle and I have so much about life we could talk about and so many creative things we could tell you all about, we made a pact. We're like, stick with the 30-minute time frame. But it's just proof, honestly, of how beautiful friendships can come out of very unexpected situations and unexpected circumstances. And I think, I go back, Gayle, to 2018 when my book was either about to be published or was published. And I reached out to the local library system in the county that I was a part of. I didn't reach out to you because I didn't know you yet, but somehow I was passed on to you.
Right.
And
right.
that was the beginning of this multi-year
Yes.
friendship. What was that like on your end when because I remember, didn't you say you got an email like this person might be someone to look into?
Yes. That was at the time my supervisor, Patrick. He did receive your email, and he had stepped down from being an active programmer. Let me throw in there, that is what I am for the Bullitt County Public Library. I am a programmer, and I used to have a very long title, and they took it down to programmer. And I have to say, when people see that, they immediately start telling me about the things that they would like to change on their computer. And I have to say, I'm sorry, I'm not
Oh,
that kind of programmer. I program,
no.
I create programs in the library for adults. So that's what,
And you do a great job of it.
well, thank you. Thank you.
You have to know that.
Well,
Absolutely.
since we're in the compliment mode right here, some people make it really simple and really easy, and that is what has happened with us.
No.
I've always enjoyed. I'm not just having someone come in and present. I am being taught myself, and I learn. I appreciate your
Oh.
style, and I think a lot of people really do. One of the series that hopefully we'll talk about that we did, which was our first one, it wasn't an extremely large group that attended, but everyone that did still talks. The ones that I'm still in contact with still talk about that because you made impact. You made impact for them. And so it was fantastic.
No. Gail, and I have to thank you. And I have to tell you, as an author, God, like yeah, I could unpack everything of what you just said, but as an for author to author, and I say author to the listener authors, although Gail, you should be an author one day. We'll get you there.
Thank you. I want to.
Author to author, when you sit back and evaluate what success looks like, many people outside of the author world think success is connected with number of books that you've sold, number of people you've spoken to when you're on the stage, whatever. Nope. For success for me has always been one-on-one impact. And you're scratching the surface about one
Yes.
of the ways that we've been able to work together to help make that impact. That was such an impactful experience that I had with that group too, and would leave many times in tears of beautiful tears, knowing that we did things together.
Yes.
It are not
There were
right,
a
and we
lot of
got really
tears.
vulnerable and really close. Okay, so before
Yes.
we go into the weeds, I
Yes.
want to let people know I wanted to talk today
Yes.
about how you can, as from unique book marketing ideas, how you can go directly where the readers are. And many people overlook this, Gail. Many authors
Hmm.
don't know how to work with libraries, and there'll be a whole, don't worry, those of you all listening, how to get your book in a library is a whole different conversation than what we're talking about today. But how to work with a library, I mean, your
Yes.
library might be scratching the perfect surface to scratch right now of people who would love what you could bring to the community
Hmm.
library, and it could open doors to create new super fans,
Yes.
people that love you, that want to follow you, that can't wait to read your next book, and finding and some a Gail. Everybody needs a Gail. Finding a Gail in your area that is a programmer may be a great way in. So Gail and I have worked together for 4 years on and off in different capacities. And when we were preparing
Hmm.
for this, I love it. I love it
Yes.
because Gail was like, I have some ideas of things we've done together. And then I have some ideas of things we haven't done together that would be beautiful for authors to consider. And so as you're listening, author out there, I want you to be thinking and realizing this is a great opportunity for us to get inside the mind of a library programmer, right? This helps us understand what you're thinking about
Hmm.
and how we can be
Hmm.
a
Yes.
resource for you. So, all right, we've scratched the surface a little bit on this series. Let's start there, Gail. Let's talk about this
Yes.
monthly program series that we've done together. Talk to me about it from your perspective.
Well, we connected it to your book by using most of the title from your book, Color Today Pretty. We came up with Color Your Year Pretty. We did 4 monthly programs. We,
Yes.
at the time, had 4 locations, so we went to each one of them. That was one of my duties as a programmer
Mhm.
for the library system,
Mhm.
to go present
Mhm.
programs at all of our
Mhm.
locations.
Mhm.
So it was a different venue each time and a different subject each time. I believe you took the same thought process that put your book together and you created different chapters, shall we say, of what could occur in a person's year. We did it
Mhm.
January, I believe it was January, February, March, and April. There was a presentation that you did, and then there was an exercise that we needed to do, either something we
Mhm.
listed or something I believe that we even shared with each other. That one was very impactful, and there were a lot of tears with that. But then you also brought in a craft. I always think of
Mhm.
Beautiful Broken. Tiles were broken and
Mhm.
then put back
Mhm.
together to assemble like
Mhm.
a trivet or whatever. But the idea was taking something that had been damaged, broken, altered, and
Yes.
putting it back together as a
Yes.
beautiful, useful item. And the applications
Mhm.
to a person's life, are major. So that one I thoroughly enjoyed. I believe we did it on a Saturday afternoon. For the most part, it was the same people with an additional person or two, depending on the location.
Yeah, and we didn't expect that. I didn't know, like, when we started doing it, the fact that we did it in different locations, I thought we'll have different people. But these people became
Yes,
super fans. And
yes,
I'm
they
glad
did.
they did, because actually after that program, we had like a couple of times we went out to dinner as a group because we just
Yes,
couldn't not do something together. But you just so I love that. A couple things I want to unpack there. One, when we started, this was the first thing we did together. When we came and we learned about my book, I shared it, but I also shared it with the lens of, Gayle, I want to help people. What can my message do to help people?
mhm,
And then you're coming at it from, all
yes,
right, I want to engage people with the library. And what is it that will draw people to come to the library?
yes,
So you had your goals, I had my
yes,
goals, and we found the place where the goals came together. And then we found what is something unique. And so
yes,
Color Today Pretty is all about finding perspective in life. Of course we need that. And January is a great time to kick it off. But then you
yes,
found out I like creative therapy. So we incorporated that into it and became a very meaningful experience too for individuals. So it was such a joy.
yes.
And I think as authors, we don't always think beyond the book, but the book is a conduit to something bigger. And that's a great example of
Right.
it.
Yes, yes, I think so too.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. And I think
It was
well, and gosh, that was in 28, 19. I think we did it. So, I mean, it's,
almost
yeah,
4 years,
almost 4 years,
3,
3 to 4 years
4 years.
ago from recording this, and we're still talking about it. I can remember each location.
Yes,
I can remember the
yes,
depth of relationship and connection that I was able to have with readers, and who knows,
yes,
I will never be able to quantify how many people who were there read the book and shared it with other people, and I think that's important, right?
yes,
Impact is bigger than what you originally think.
yes.
And that actually, I think,
Oh,
kind of
absolutely.
scratches the surface on the other seasonal program that you and I got to do together. Talk about that one, because that one was in a different world, like COVID world.
Yes, yes. I believe you're talking about fill up your holiday cup. And I was thinking about that when I wrote it down. And
That was not
oh,
COVID. That was not that. We did a third thing. I forgot. We did the Momentum
yes,
series
yes.
too.
Oh, gosh, yes. Oh, my.
So this is an in between. Okay, go
Okay.
back to the fill up your holiday cup. That was so
Yes,
much
it
fun.
was.
I remember
It
that
was.
now.
And the idea behind that, that I like, is the idea that a person's book could be applied in a seasonal fashion. And I had wanted to do a
Mhm.
program about the excess of the holidays, and that not everybody's
Yeah.
thrilled with having holidays. They want it done, they want to get through it, and they're simply surviving. So the idea, once again, was to reach out to people. What could we have them do or suggest and give them a different perspective? I was told recently that I like to change the way people look at things. And to me, that's almost the
Ooh,
definition, thank
you
you, of
too.
perspective. It's change how you look at it.
Yeah.
So we, once again, I believe we only took this program to 3 of our locations, but we kind
Mhm.
of did,
Mhm.
we mixed it up. This time, I brought in things, just simple things that a person could do as gift givings. And I've continued one of them, except for I have it already, but I haven't. I'm still waiting to pass out some Christmas presents. If I could reach through and hand you yours, I would, but
Oh, you're so sweet.
oh, thank you.
You're the let me just say, you're the best gift giver. Like, it was so much fun to partner on this one because the way your brain works and how you see people, like you see people and you connect your gift to giving around that. It's really beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I don't like things that are straight off the shelf. I like things
Yeah.
that are unique and individual. I tell my husband I'd rather get something on a Tuesday in July than to get the expected item on my birthday or Christmas. I want something that's
Mhm.
personal to
Mhm.
me, and I like to do the same. But to
Mhm.
fall back on what I did is I brought in just varieties of things that a person could use to decorate or gifts that they could do. You know, the typical, the mug with the chocolates, or take a red and white scarf and lay it across your table, put some pine cones on it, and a glittering candle. The idea was to
Mhm.
not have people
Mhm.
be working so hard to enjoy it, not for the holiday to be so much work. And then I made a list of different things that they could do. Maybe plan for someone to receive dinner in January. And you told them, and you didn't have to make all of the arrangements. You didn't have to cook in December, but it gave you something to look forward to in January. And I believe I did maybe 10 items. And then the 10th item was,
Mhm.
and here's the biggest gift for you. Stephanie Feger is going to inform us and tell us how we can change our perspective. And so it just really flowed into what you said.
So can I just say, I know this is not an episode to talk about Christmas gifts, and this episode will air nowhere close to Christmas. But one of my favorite things that you have given me, and I shared it with somebody, and was literally
Mhm.
Gail talking with them yesterday about it. Okay. I have a friend who came from out of town and she stayed with me for a couple days and she forgot something. I don't remember how, but I ended up gifting her one of the cloths that you make to wipe makeup off. Okay. And I think you've given me like maybe 8 or 10, and I rotate through them. I've not thrown any away, by the way. I wash them, I rotate, whatever. And I gave her one when she was there. I was like, oh, I think you would love this. And she told me yesterday, Stephanie, that cloth you've given me is like golden. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm talking with Gail tomorrow. I can't wait to tell her that that which is not an overly complicated gift, was so meaningful. And I still use it and I think of you every night when I wash my face.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, I wanted to give something decidedly feminine, but yes, that was one of those personal gifts that, I told people and I
Mhm.
demoed, all you have to do is make a cut
Yep.
and tear them
Yep.
into the size that you want. And there's so much variety of what's available. But again, it's the idea of that thought of something kind of personal, not impersonal, that somebody could take away. And again, that's your book. That is your writing. Just the things that I hear you say a lot of times too. They're personal. They're not cold, foreign, or anything else. So,
Yep.
again, for an author to find those things and connect with someone who, does want to make an impact. And that is something, my job is very valuable. I know yours is very valuable to you, but it's cool that they merge. And as you said, finding that person who can do these things with you really allows a way for an author to make an impact. But they do, kind of like you said, it's not always the profit or the sheer number of books. If you're writing to make
Mhm.
impact for change for somebody, that's what you need to do. And it just makes it so much more personal. And it's so much more than the dollar.
Oh my gosh, everything is. Well, and and I think back of those two particular programs that we did in person together. What I loved
Mhm.
was I had a message You had your goal and you had a group
Mhm.
of people that were interested in hearing a message. You were
Yes.
able to help me take a message, adapt my message to reach people I would never have likely reached otherwise.
True.
And it's proof of two things that I talk about with authors. One is strategic partnerships. I'm a big believer in having strategic partnerships. A partnership is not a one-way street; it's a two-way that collide in a beautiful place, and there's fireworks where they collide.
Yes.
But it's
Yes.
strategic in the sense that both parties win. Nobody is
Yes.
winning individually. Both parties win. This helps you accomplish what you need to do. It helps me spread the word of what my message is all about, which is bigger than a book, anyways. And it's just a
Yes.
beautiful marriage. The other thing
Yes.
is identifying what in the marketing space we call complementary service providers, which are people who are also serving the people that your book
Ah.
needs. And who are
Oh,
those
wow.
people? They are complementary service providers. Independently, you're not in competition. Are you kidding? Authors and librarians are that's a marriage made in heaven. But
Absolutely.
together, you can both serve the same person in a much more
Yes.
robust way. And so I look back and I'm like, that holiday experience was so much fun. And it's also proof that we created a friendship and relationship. And you mentioned earlier, you knew what I was going to provide, you knew I was reliable, you knew my
Yes.
quality. So when
Yes.
you stepped back and said, this is something that's a program we need, then it popped in your mind, I can trust Stephanie to come and add
Yes.
value to this.
Yes, absolutely. That is,
Mhm.
that's actually, I'm glad you brought that up because that was something that was running through my head lately because
Mhm.
I am now able to actually pull out those things that I've been looking at trying to accomplish, the ability to know who I can call
Mhm.
and what I can produce through them. It is a partnership, but it's having known you for the time that I did, I knew that I could probably throw out a subject and you could come up with something that fits it.
Yes. Welcome to my brain, Gail.
Yes, well, and it cuts my job in half.
Yeah.
If I have to lead somebody down the merry path and
Yep.
I'm struggling, but
Yep.
when you find somebody that fits and you're able to say, this is what I need, and they immediately go, oh, I can do this and that, and we can merge the two. So, again, that partnership
Mhm.
and that flexibility, which we've, done. You mentioned the third instance that we work
Mhm.
together. And again, an adaptability, a dependability. I knew, it was mentioned from
Yep.
time to time because those were videos that we were presenting because we weren't doing programs within the
Yes.
library because of COVID. And I had a theme, wellness
Sure.
momentum, with the idea of how can you continue to make strides for taking care of yourself, with being in all the time and not being out with people. So we were
Yep.
producing videos that people could look at online. I realized we had way too many minutes, but we needed to occupy our time and we needed to occupy our brains. So somebody said something
Yeah.
about, now be sure to,
Absolutely.
take a look at those. And I'm almost like, I know what she's going to put on there. I don't need to not trust what she's going to have. It's going to be fantastic. And yes, I might need to do a
That's
glitch.
awesome.
There might be some odd technical things that I may need to work
Sure.
at or a hesitation or something. But I knew that the content would work well.
Yep.
And again, that partnership between most people
Mhm.
working in a library, it's a pretty stable environment to work in. So
Mhm.
I would encourage your authors to find that person and come in, if particularly if the librarian maybe is a little bit new,
Mhm.
come in with
That's
ideas,
awesome.
steal my ideas. Sometimes when we come up with a great idea, we hesitate to share it, or we don't
Mhm.
want somebody stealing it, or, oh my gosh, heaven forbid they take that idea and put it in their book or on
Yes.
their front page or on their cover. But in the world of librarians, let's see, I believe my quote was, being stolen from is the biggest compliment to librarians. As long as somebody, tells us, well, I used your idea, or people are talking about you and what you did, I would love to know that some of these programs that we've talked about will occur in other places on earth. That is the biggest compliment to me, and it would be to other librarians. So I would, highly suggest that. But if they can
Mhm.
come in with their ideas, some ideas that maybe that person hasn't thought about, because it can be both ways.
It is. So I think, you touched on the fact that relationships are really important. I recently told someone the other day, and not many people would know and agree to this, but it's hard to build trust. It's easy to break it. And if you build a relationship with someone
Mhm.
like how we have done, it can create a beautiful trust where I've got an idea. I know Stephanie will deliver. And I also know I have an idea and I can go to Stephanie with
Yes.
a kernel of an idea and we can make popcorn out of it. Together we can explode it to something really, really great.
Yes.
I love that about you. I love what we get to do together. And this is just making me think, Gayle, it's time for us
Yes.
to do something else together. So we have to be thinking. But what I was going to also share, we've talked a lot about the ways you and I have worked together, specific to taking the content out of my book and into the lives of someone else. And not just my book, but me. My book is me. It's
Yes.
we're connected. Take my
Yes.
message and share it. And I think that's one way to look at libraries and how you can collaborate. The other way is the fact that as an author, it's just cool that you're an author and your local library or regional libraries will think that's cool too. And what we didn't bring up, Gayle, and
Hmm.
I'm just remembering all the ways we've worked together. There was a how to festival that you all hosted, and myself and a dear friend of mine in the fiction space came and talked about how to share your story or something around those lines. And it was specific about authorship.
Oh, yes.
And I know you've, recently shared with me, what would a local author workshop look like or an author talk with a book club. So
Yeah.
let's dive down that quickly because I want authors to realize there's two facets of you. You wrote a book, that's one facet, and the
Yes.
book's content and your message is the other facet. And librarians and library programmers and everybody, they find interest in both. Talk to me about the author perspective and why do you think that's interesting outside of the fact that I don't know, you're a building of books with authors in it?
Well, yes, I could
That in
see
and of itself
that.
is interesting.
Hmm. Yes, 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 it is. Yes, it is. I believe when I wrote the list to you, I ended it with the idea that I am always thrilled to be able to say, well, my friend Stephanie, the author, I know an author. Well, I was talking to an author the other day, or you need some authors? I've got some names for
Mhm.
you. Love, love, love that. And I think everybody wants to be able to do that.
Cool.
If you are a reader and you enjoy a book,
Mhm.
that's great.
Mhm.
But if you can say to somebody, oh, well, I know her. What? You've talked to her? It's maybe not quite the status of an actor, but yet again, if you are a person who loves to read, it almost is that kind of status for you. I actually had an author come in. She doesn't live in our county, she lives in the next county, but she uses our library. And she has some published books. I believe there were four. She decided she'd been living here about 6 months. And she said, well, I'm going to bring a copy of those books to my local library. And the manager called me in and said, oh, this is so and so. And she left these books. And so I contacted her. I believe she'd already left that day when I had gotten there. And I contacted her and I invited her. I believe within the next week, my Brown Bag Book Club was meeting, and we do a 12 to 1:30. It's a half an hour social, 1 hour for the discussion. And I said, would you like to, come in, talk about your book, talk about your writing, talk about any issues that you have? And it kind of introduces your items to them. She said, sounds great. Everybody was thrilled. One of my attendants said, can I buy all of those books? One of my attenders then checked out one of the books because we had already put them in the system by then. She really enjoyed it and got the second book too. And there are so many book clubs right now. That is something COVID has brought about. It can be done virtually, it can be done in person. It doesn't have to be a library. I'm just partial to that. We actually, I think, currently have three book clubs that we run out of this branch. 15 minutes in front of a book club. Again, people are always looking for new authors. And if they happen to have heard this one speak, it just makes it, all the better.
I think that is so awesome. Well, and it also
Yes.
reminded me, see, look, here I am uncovering all of the other things. There's one more thing we did together, Gail, and that was the author fair.
Oh, yes. Yes. Oh
How did we
gosh.
forget that?
I
So so right, it is
Mhm.
the most beautiful and like semi uncomfortable experience for me as an author to go and talk and listen and be a part of a group of people who have read my book, and they, and you've read my book, so you know me, and my book's very vulnerable. So when I get in front of people who know me in ways
Yes.
I don't realize that they know me, it is
Yes.
beautiful and overwhelming and emotional in all good
Mm.
ways. So
Mhm.
author events like that are wonderful. And I love that
Yes.
you
Yes.
shared, most libraries probably have a book club. Call the library. If you're coming to the table caring
Yes.
about them more than you
Find
are
out.
caring about you, because remember, it's a partnership where the partnership collides and fireworks show up. That's the beauty, right? So it's not about you selling books, but the reality is, if you do it right, you will sell
Yes.
books. It will be good for you, but it will also extend your brand. But the
Yes.
author fair is another great concept of something many libraries do, and you did one a couple of years ago. Talk about that.
Yes. Our author fair, this particular one that you came to, we really did feel it. It was a full day. We had two
Yes.
panels. You served on one of those, and I'm trying to remember which it was. It might have been about the publishing. Like, do how did you
Yeah.
publish your book? And then we had a speaker who is a local author, and she was talking about promotions. How do you
Mhm.
promote your book? It was a great day. I thoroughly enjoyed it. We were packed full.
It was so much fun.
Yes, yes, it is. And I think it was a great day because other authors got to meet other authors and they were the focus for it. We're just not ready to go
Mhm.
back to having something
Mhm.
so large right now. So, what we're toying with, I've had two ideas
Sure.
and I think we're going to go with the second one. But the idea is that we do a monthly program. What I was going to call it was local author workshops. It would be about an hour to an hour and a half, about 30 to 45 minutes speaking, 15 minutes of Q&A. The author could
Mhm.
pick a particular subject. It could be simply, what was my process for writing this book? Maybe it was their process for finding a publisher for it. They could just pick out something that tells another person and kind of guides the
Mhm.
patron, because every other person I think has a book inside of them. Everybody wants to write a book and they don't know oftentimes where to go with it. How do you start? We did a workshop several years ago
Mhm.
because we actually had several author fairs up until that point, and it was opening lines. It was that all important sentence. How do you start your book? What are the first 10, 15 words that you say in your book, and where do you go from there? We're looking at possibly doing that, and probably the authors could bring their items
Mhm.
in and possibly sell them after the workshop, or it might simply be a matter of contact. So they're encouraging a lot of people. They're having other people profit from their experience. But another one, and I think we're going to go with this venue because there's so many things I want to do right now. I believe we're going to call this one Your Bullitt County. And it encompasses
That's cool.
so many people: government workers, authors, local businesses, farms, anything that takes place in Bullitt County. A person could come and have that hour and a half. We would do it regularly. It might be the local county clerk's office, but it might be a
Mhm.
author who has written the very first book. It's a way to, we'll say, wet the whistle of the people who want new authors to read. And it could also be that person who wants to get all those thoughts out of their head. How do they start on this book? And it may simply be someone they could contact and be able to sit down with for a little bit and talk to them. And then, of course, there's always that, well, we've got to get this book in our library. So there could be sales, there. There's all kinds of different ways that could go. We were talking before we opened about how sometimes all the different ideas and the different directions that we can take. We think we have exhausted our list, and then we find it all over again with all these ideas that we never knew about, and maybe even begin to build on them separately or putting them together. It's just, inspiration. It's finding a new way to do it.
It is, and I'm listening to all of this, and you can't see me, podcast listeners, but my cheeks hurt from so many smiles because this makes me so happy to hear
Oh,
inside your
good.
brain how all of the things are working, but also it helps me realize that you know the book is the conduit for something bigger, and that bigger thing, I don't mean
Yes,
bigger and scope and number of people, I mean impact. And it's just really
yes,
fun to hear you talk about that. The other couple things I want to share that is just fun too, the Bullitt County Library system, which when you and I started working together, we mentioned were four libraries, physical locations. I'll never
yes,
forget when you were like, "We're going to get a book of yours in every book in every library," and I'm like, I can't wait, Gail. That's awesome. Then the best part was the day you texted me and said, I think you texted me a photo and you said, Stephanie,
yes,
your book is checked out.
yes.
Yeah.
It was on the
Or it
end
was
cap.
like checked out in all three or something. And I'm like, or all four. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. And I'm
Yes,
like, this is so cool.
yes,
And then there was a time, Gail, that somebody
yes.
never brought the book back. I remember you telling me that too. You're like, this book it's
Ooh,
not come
okay,
back. And I
okay, I'd
said,
forgotten about
that's a
that.
good thing. I mean, I know it's not
Oh,
for the library, but for me, it was
yes,
like, maybe, maybe it was super meaningful to them. When you and I have been working together, Gail, it was about building relationship and deepening
yes,
the message that I was sharing. It wasn't about a quick win. Let's just launch the book and
yes,
move on.
yes.
What it did was it allowed for ongoing momentum for me to continue the book's message. And I think that's beautiful. And that's something authors need to consider. And, Gail, thank you for letting us unzip your brain and get all up in it and learn everything that goes through your perspective of it. And I'm realizing I've written down captured a couple of key takeaways. One is that every marketing
Hmm.
effort that an author is doing is should be a twofold goal. It's not just your goal. It's, yes, you want to
Yes.
promote your book. You've got a product, you've got a message you want to share, but it's also to help the other strategic partner out there achieve their goals too. And when you do that, it's a win-win. And I think win-win scenarios are the best way to go. And your book is evergreen. If you had a
Ah,
message that wasn't evergreen, you wouldn't have published a book. I can tell you that. You would not have gone through the journey to write something that has a shelf life of a month. Your
yes,
book's message has a long life. I was chatting earlier this morning with a friend of mine who's published like 16 books or something crazy, and she
yes.
said, based on copyrights, your book is like you've got a copyright of your entire life plus 70 years after your death. So this book is a legacy. So don't look at it as a 1 month and done journey. Let it organically grow and be nurtured. And as we talked about in one of our programs, the one where we worked on planting flowers, sometimes you have to go through some manure for the seeds to germinate and pop through. So hey, we're going back to that. But I think meaningful experiences and relationships, both with the authors and the readers, with the authors and programmers, amazing programmers like you, like it creates a win-win. It creates a loyalty of super fans. It creates an experience that's unforgettable for both parties. I can guarantee you, when I step away and evaluate success, those are the things that mean more to me than pushing a book, to be honest.
Thank you so much. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Thank you for all that you've shared, the conversation. Bigger than all of that, thank you for your friendship. I really love friendships like we have, where we see each other a handful of times a year, but it feels like we pick up where we left off. And I will forever and always cherish that. Thank you. Just thank you for helping to create an environment where the written word is powerful and meaningful and respected and embraced. And as somebody who loves using that as a way to share a message, it means a lot of the intricacy, the delicacy, the respect, the joy, all of that you see every day working within a library. Like, that is my home. Not that I work to put stuff in there, but sitting in a library, sitting in a bookstore, it's my home. It feels so beautiful there. And anyways, it's just, thank you for caring for all of the other authors around the world that have expressed their stories in this way. And thank you for being on the Empowered Author podcast. I remember the first day I met Gayle, like it was yesterday. Yes, we did chat for 2 hours together. I bet that wouldn't surprise you. And I left our meeting feeling energized about what was possible through our collaboration. If you are interested in sharing your book in and through a library, I want you to shift how you see it. A library isn't just a bookstore at all. It's a community that wants to build community. It's a place where we, authors, get to sit with authors over generations who have dedicated long hours to the love of the written word, just like we have. And we aren't the only ones who think that's special. Many in the community do too. Strategic partnerships with your local library can be game-changing. Now remember, book marketing doesn't have to be something altogether different from what you're already doing on the daily. Do you frequent the library? If so, take a moment to ask their team how you could collaborate. And if you'd like some infused inspiration on how to engage with your library more, let's chat. We offer a 1-hour marketing strategy session that is sure to leave you with more easy and simple marketing ideas than you can tackle in a month or a year, to be honest. Visit empowerprgroup.com/marketing strategy session to learn more and snatch a time to chat. I'd love to help. All right, empowered author, you know the drill. I believe that empowered people empower people. I've empowered you. Now it's your turn to empower others.